What's going on, you guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 recovery tools that I use as a hybrid athlete. As a hybrid athlete, you can find me either road running, mountain running, bouldering, or strength training throughout the week. And it's because of all these different modalities that I do have these different tools that we'll cover. But before jumping into each individual tool, we'll go through the list just so you know what's coming up. We're going to be talking about the Roll Recovery R8, foam rollers, Voodoo Floss, Hypervolt, and I'm going to keep number 5 a secret until the end, is that's going to be our number 1 tool. So I saved it for the end here. So let's jump right in. The first one here is the R8 by Roll Recovery. I've been using this tool for a couple years now, and the main purpose behind this tool is the myofascial release. This is super huge when it comes to having any kind of knots in your upper leg specifically. So you're talking like your quads, your hams, your adductors, and your abductors. For me personally, I tend to get a lot of knots in my adductors. It's kind of a sign that they're weak there. But the beautiful thing about this Roll Recovery is that you can find a specific area that is tight, and then you're going to go ahead and clamp this on. If you let it go, it'll go on really fast and it's going to hurt. But that's why they have the springs here, and then you want to slowly let it out, and then these can roll onto that specific knot. You can see the wheels here rolling, and that's something where you're going to roll up and down that specific area that has those knots. One of the things to note about the R8 is that you don't want to be rolling this on your bones. This is for muscles specifically, and it's for targeted areas. So as I mentioned, if there is a tight muscle or a knot, this is where it's going to come into play. The beautiful thing about this is that it's easy to travel with. You can put it in a backpack or into a suitcase, so it is really nice to travel with. One of the cons is that you can't do your back. So from a myofascial perspective, I always want to be rolling out my muscles, including my back, on a daily basis. I initially thought about this as a downside, but I really think about the quality of the product, as I've had it for years and had no issues with it, is that it is a little pricey. Depending on the model, you can expect to pay anywhere between $140 to $170. I put the model that I use in the description below if you want to check that out. Again, it is a little pricey, but I do believe in paying for quality, and this definitely does check that box. For recovery tool number 2, we're going to talk about the foam roller. So the purpose behind the foam roller, very similar to the Roll Recovery R8, is going to be around myofascial release. One of the benefits of having a foam roller versus the Roll Recovery is that you're going to be able to do your entire body, where the Roll Recovery is going to only be able to do your legs. If you are able to afford both, I do prefer the Roll Recovery over the foam roller when it comes to the upper leg, those quads, hamstrings, adductors, and abductors. But if you're looking for something that gets you by and does everything, a foam roller is definitely going to be the route to go. I have a tutorial on the page that can show you how to go through an entire full body foam rolling session in 5 minutes. One of the downsides of the foam roller is that it isn't as easy to travel with, but it is doable if you have like a little bit of a larger bag. And unlike the Roll Recovery, the pressure is determined on your body weight and gravity. So like if you're doing your legs, you can either have the other leg pushing against the ground so the pressure isn't as high, or if you want more pressure, you would lift the other leg that's not getting rolled on to let gravity do its thing on the leg that's on the foam roller. I should have mentioned this at the beginning though, but there are different types of foam rollers. A lot of the ones that you see at gyms are just like the smooth foam on it. I got the one with the nubs on here just so we can get targeted areas and specific knots. And there are other foam rollers out there that have like the nubs that stick out, and I'm not a fan of those ones. I really like the one that I have here, and just like the Roll Recovery, I do have a link below for you to check that out. This is far more of a cost-effective option in comparison to the Roll Recovery, and you could expect to pay anywhere between $15 to $30 for a quality foam roller. I've had this one for about 2 years now, and it was $30, and I've had 0 issues with it. Recovery tool number 3 is definitely one of the best kept secrets out there, and that is Voodoo Floss. Now, every time I bring this up to folks, people are like, what is Voodoo Floss? And the purpose behind Voodoo Floss, the way that I view it, is that it flushes out the blood in a specific area. So what do I mean by that? So if you've ever rolled your ankle or sprained your ankle, anything like that, you know that that ankle will swell up. It's all the blood coming into the area to help repair it, but eventually you want to get that swelling out of the ankle. That's where something like Voodoo Floss will come into play, where you can start to wrap the entire ankle to apply pressure and tightness around that ankle, get that stale blood out of there, and then when you take the Voodoo Floss off, you go ahead and do some mobility drills and get that new blood to drive into that ankle that needs healing. The second application that I found this most beneficial is around shin splints. So in 2021, I believe it was, I dealt with shin splints for about 3 months, not knowing what to do. And that was when I did discover Voodoo Floss. I would wrap this around starting at the top of my ankle and go up to my knee. And I would have it on there for about 1 to 2 minutes, doing a bunch of mobility drills, just trying to get the legs moving. sleeping. And then once I took the Voodoo Floss off, I would do those same mobility drills without it, forcing blood to go into that area, and my shin splints went away. One of the things to note about this is that it wasn't that it fixed my shin splints, but it also did identify a weakness within my muscles, and that's when I started getting into doing like tib races using the ISO tib bar, which I've talked about in previous videos. Another one of the pluses with Voodoo Floss is that this is super perfect to travel with. I mean, you can see how big it is. It's super small, and I don't know if you've experienced this in the past, but I've gotten off long flights where like my lower leg has swelled up and all that blood is staying down there. This is going to help flush that out and help get your leg back to normal post-travel if you do experience those leg swellings and long flights. From a pricing perspective, super cost effective. I think I paid roughly $30 for the one that I had, and you can check out the link below in the description. Recovery tool number 4 is going to be the Hypervolt. So this is one of my favorite tools that I've used for a couple years now. I think a lot of people have seen these online. The purpose behind this bad boy is going to be similar to the other ones, myofascial release. What I mainly use it for are my traps here, because I am an office worker during the week, so I do tend to have my shoulders hunched up throughout the day and not really realize it. And so I can simply just take this at the end of the night, start to break down those tight muscles before bed, and just do this for 3 to 5 minutes on each side. And the other area that I really use this for is on the glutes, just targeting a specific area that might be tight. What's different about the Hypervolt that's great compared to the roll recovery or a foam roller is that with the foam roller or roll recovery, they're using rolling to open up myofascial knots. So we've talked about it in the past in videos where I think of muscle fascia like knitting on a shirt here. If we have a knot in a shirt and we try to pull that shirt, that knot is only going to be tighter. Same thing with the muscle here. If we can't open it up through trying to roll it out, we can simply take one of these Hypervolts, apply to that specific area, and use vibration versus roll to knock out that knot. And the other great thing about the Hypervolt is that you're also able to change the knobs here. So for this one that I have on right now, this is something that I would use for like my trap, but I've also used it for very specific small areas of my soleus, so the muscle underneath my calf, which tends to get tight with all the mountain running. This one I would use for a very targeted area that I need to hit in between the bones. So again, similar to the foam roller and the roll recovery, this is not something that you put on bones. It's strictly for muscles, and then you would use something like this to get a very pinpointed area. From a travel perspective, I travel with the Hypervolt and my Voodoo Floss every time I go out for a race, just because they're both compact and it takes care of everything I need. The Hypervolt is a little pricey, but again, similar to what I was saying about the roll recovery, you do pay for quality. You're going to expect to pay around $300, and I put a link to the one that I use below, but I wouldn't be scared of the cost because I've had this one for years, and again, zero issues with the product, and it gets everything I need to get done. Jumping into recovery tool number 5, this is the most important tool that if you're not using this, all of this stuff is garbage, and that is sleep. I know you don't want to hear this, but if you're not getting quality sleep, all of these tools are just going to be a waste of money and your time. And here's why. When I think of sleep, I think of 3 different stages. You have your light, REM, and your deep. Light sleep is really just like that napping, right? It's a refresh, it's not a restart. REM sleep, the next level down, this is really about refreshing the mind. So really think of this as just a cleanse, but from a mental aspect. And then once you get into that deep sleep, that's when your body starts to recover from a physical standpoint, which benefits the muscle piece. So you have to get from light to REM to deep. Now, you don't necessarily have to get all of your sleep in deep, but you can use other tools like Oura or Whoop that will tell you how much time you're spending in each zone. And I feel like numbers like that are really relevant to kind of tell you some of the behavior changes that you might need in order to get those numbers up. For me personally, I get a minimum of 7 hours of sleep a night. And some of the best practices that I implement is that I do 0 electronics 1 hour before wanting to fall asleep, and I do 0 electronics 1 hour after waking up. And I promise you, Instagram will be there after that hour. So as I think to wrap up this video, some of the things I think about is that like all of these tools are really great, but you want to look at your body and recovery as a full system. You have to have the right fitness and programming to ensure that you're getting to where you need to be. Nutrition needs to be aligned with your goals and your fitness, because you want to make sure that you're fueling your body properly. And then you want to make sure that you're sleeping enough to get your body to recover to sustain the fitness that you're implementing into your lifestyle. These tools that we just covered here, this is like the last 10 to 15% that you really need. But again, remember, if you're not sleeping correctly, all of this is just a waste. So I'll leave it at that before getting on a huge soapbox. I hope this video was helpful in understanding just some of the tools that I use as a hybrid athlete. But if there's something I missed or have any additional questions, be sure to leave them in the comments section below and let me know if there's additional topics that you'd like for me to cover in the future. I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.